All right, and we are live. It is Five Dumb Things, episode 14. It is a special one today, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be doing a all Ghostbusters themed episode of Five Dumb Things. I am your co-host. I am Darren J. Gendron, and ladies and gentlemen, with me as always, the man that you're probably going to call Brandon J. Carr.
Is there something strange in your neighborhood
Something weird?
and it don't look good?
Who are you going to call?
Me.
Well, we could do one better than that, Brandon. I think we can. Because
All right.
we have a guest judge. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest judge is the writer for the Ghostbusters comics for IDW, Erik Burnham, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, how goes it?
Hi,
I,
Eric.
I like how I say ladies and gentlemen, like there's a studio audience just waiting to start their applause at that moment.
Well, it's nice to assume
yeah.
that there are ladies and gentlemen listening at any given time.
Mostly ladies, not and degenerates. That's our main demographic there. Yes.
Sad but true.
Yeah. Yes, you guys listening, you are terrible, terrible people.
But keep sending those reviews in.
That's how you start a good podcast, is you immediately insult the listener. Like, you should rethink your life for listening to this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we do it. This is Five Dumb Things. Brandon and I, we scour the internet, we scour the world for things that we find that are dumb in movies, television, music, gaming, and etc. And we present these cases to our guest judge. In this case, it is Eric, and he is going to be the arbiter of dumbness. He's going to tell us which one of the two of us is being dumb, and then we'll learn something. We'll have a sharing moment at the end of the show. Are we ready to go? Are we ready to rock?
I
Absolutely.
think you have the wrong kind of very special episode.
Well, not quite that special. Well, this is our second themed episode. No, third. Yeah, we did Doctor Who. We did
Third.
Star Wars. This was one that what happened was Brendan and I caught ourselves. We were obsessing about the new Ghostbusters movie that comes out this summer. In fact, and I'm cracking up because I'm looking at the show notes. At no point do we refer to this movie at all in the show notes. Is that accurate, or?
Well, I assume that this is our way of clearing our throat, sort of, before we ingest the new Paul Feig movie.
Okay, so I think it might come up a little bit in some of the arguments, but we'll see. So let's get right into it, because I think movies is where you have to start when we're starting with the movie franchise. Brandon, would you like to make your case first?
Sure. So, movies, obviously, we would talk about Ghostbusters, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna talk about Ghostbusters 2. Ghostbusters, of course, is why we are here today having this conversation, the start of the whole franchise. But Ghostbusters 2 happened in 1989, and I think if I saw the original Ghostbusters in the theater, I don't remember it because I would have been 5.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Return of the Jedi. So, I don't know. But anyway, I probably didn't see it at that time. But 1989, I definitely saw Ghostbusters 2 because I was already pretty obsessed with Ghostbusters in general. From watching it on beta to playing with the toys. And so I was very excited to see it on the big screen. And a lot of people don't consider it a worthy follow-up to the original. I am not one of those people. I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of great humor to it. The ancient god character that takes over at the
Vigo?
end, Vigo, the Carpathian, is appropriately creepy. And I don't know if you've read the backstory of the guy that played Vigo, but if you haven't, dear listeners, go check it out. Wilhelm von Homburg was Vigo the Carpathian, and he has a very interesting backstory. You should check that out. I'm not even going to try and summarize it.
The actor that played the guy in the painting.
Right, exactly.
Huh.
Very, very weird story.
I am titillated and teased at the moment.
I could have done a whole section just on him because it's very interesting. Not a great guy. So anyway, at the beginning of Ghostbusters 2, we see that things have slowed down for the Ghostbusters. They're doing birthday parties. They're not allowed to use their proton packs. Things are not going great, and so it was sad, obviously, to see them at their lower point, but it's a great way to see them go through that same kind of arc of struggle that they went through in the first one. Plus, you got Peter McNichol playing Janusz of undetermined origin, who's very funny, who makes an appearance as an elderly nanny at one point, which is great. And the whole thing is a lot of fun, and it gets a lot of flack for not being as great. Now, there are some elements of it that are not as good as the first one, but I think that's because the first one was so out of nowhere that you had these super famous comedians making this movie the first time around, and it was unexpected. There was nothing else like it. So the idea that trying to even match, let alone top, the original was pretty daunting. And while I don't feel that it is a better movie than the original Ghostbusters, I think it's closer than a lot of people give it credit for. Seeing the Statue of Liberty going through the harbor, or the harbor chick going through, that's a great moment, and it was so much fun in the theater. And I don't know if it has the same kind of resonance watching it at home that it did seeing it the first time in the theater, even with 1989 effects.
I definitely remember. I can even remember the theater I watched it in, because it was in Reno, Nevada, and I watched it as part of a double feature with the Yahoo Serious movie Young Einstein.
Young Einstein, yikes.
Yeah. Didn't really care. I wasn't there for the Yahoo series. I was like, yeah, that happened. But it was all about seeing Ghostbusters 2. That had to happen for me.
Right. And I don't know if it's I was just at the right age, at the right time for it to be a great movie for me, or because I had such a love for the franchise, even though it wasn't really, I guess it was a franchise at that point, because we had the serials and the cartoon and the video games.
So what are you saying is dumb about it?
What I think is dumb about it is how dismissed it is, and how eager people are to pretend in a way that it didn't exist. Because I've heard that argument that, we haven't had a good Ghostbusters movie since 1984. You know, the same kind of argument that people made for Episode 7, saying we haven't had a good Star Wars movie since 1983. Or 1980 for people who didn't like Jedi. I think it's an unfair argument. I think it adds a lot to the universe. I think the Mood Slime was a really creative step forward in the same kind of way that they built out the ectoplasmic universe around them.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go. We were looking at the show notes, and sometimes we do this. Sometimes we cheat a little. There's no way I'm saying Ghostbusters is dumb. But as I was going through, because that's the only other movie I have to pick, right? Instead, I'm gonna say Beverly Hills Cop is dumb.
Say what?
Beverly Hills Cop. Why? What's the connection here? Because of Winston. Because the character Winston was not written for. Why am I blanking already? Oh my gosh! For Ernie Hudson. That's things that I normally put in the show notes, so I don't have a moment of stupid. Winston was written for Eddie Murphy. This is the original script had it for Eddie Murphy, and for some reason I only found out about this this year that was. I actually found some chunks of the script, and you can read the lines, and oh geez, they're really written in Eddie Murphy's voice at that point.
And he came in a lot earlier, I think, didn't he?
He came in super early. In fact, the Venkman getting slimed by Slimer scene that actually happens to Winston. He's one of the first three, and so then I started thinking about how there's this alternate universe where it's Eddie Murphy and Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, and then I found out that wouldn't have been the case.
That's right.
It actually would have been Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, and John Belushi. like that would have been the three Ghostbusters. So now I'm trying to figure out, like, do I want to? Am I in the best possible future, or is there this parallel universe where that's the Ghostbusters and they're the best possible? Like, that's why I'm hating on Beverly Hills Cop right now, is because Eddie jumped tracks and went over to that. Well, okay, first off, John Belushi died, and that scrambled everything. I mean, it was even things like John Candy was going to play Lewis, Rick Moranis' character, and with Belushi dying, they went back to the drawing board. It became less of this cluster of Saturday Night Live talent making this. And I want to see that movie still. You know, that just sounds amazing. To have it be Belushi, Aykroyd, and Murphy. Like, that's three very different comedy voices clumping together in ways that could be a lot of fun. I mean, Aykroyd and Murphy, they've worked together in the past. I'm trying to think if Belushi and Murphy ever, outside of, like, Saturday Night Live, I don't think so, right? No, I don't think so. So there's, like, these two alternate versions of Ghostbusters in my head that don't exist, but I like Beverly Hills Cop, too, so maybe I should just suck it up and deal with it and say that we probably ended up with the best possible future. Or maybe I should complain.
Well, there's nothing wrong with complaining. I mean,
yeah. If there's nothing to complain about, we wouldn't be here right now.
Would it be a better movie if it was Eddie Murphy as Winston?
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I don't know. It would have added Eddie Murphy's performances at that time. There would have been so much extra energy. I'm not sure it would have been to the benefit of the movie. It might have been funnier, but I don't know that the story would have played out.
Yeah, I think now that I realize that Venkman wouldn't have been a character, like that Venkman versus Winston energy, yeah, that wouldn't, like, there's a very difference in their energies that would have been similar had it been Murphy and Venkman, Murphy and Murphy and Murray. So it's like. Yeah, and I can see why it's only a 3-person cast versus a 4-person, but there's a part of me that still wants to see that more tightly clustered. I want to see why. Hey, Eric, why is there not a comic of this team? Ignoring likeness rights and estates.
Right. Well, I mean, the flavor of the characters. When you have just those three, who's the straight man? Who's the everyman?
Ramis.
And he's not in that lineup. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been in the comics. It's just the Ernie Hudson version of Winston has given me so much to play with.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine a very funny story with that group, but I think it would be jokes over plot.
Yeah.
And it would hold up as well as a story. I could be wrong, but yeah.
At the same time, this would also be a Winston that's a test pilot.
Well, we kept all the armed forces stuff for the comic anyway.
Yep.
All right.
In fact, the comics, it's well established in the comics that there are infinite dimensions and universes and things.
And the Eddie Murphy one did have a little bit of that group did have a little bit of a cameo in Get Real. So.
Oh geez. Well.
Just one panel.
Okay.
Here they are. So somewhere out there they exist.
There you go.
Then my childish desires that I just developed in the past 24 hours have been met. That is extremely good service. That being said, I still say it's dumb. So, Judge Erik, the Honorable Judge Erik, what is dumb? Is the hipstery post-critical reception of Ghostbusters 2 or Beverly Hills Cop?
That's the thing. Ghostbusters 2 did have a lot of repetition that I didn't like, but the new stuff that they brought, I think it's dumb that it's being overly dismissed. There was some good comedy there. There was some good fun. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay, let me reset. Brandon, you're again. We actually planned who gets to go first on these topics today. So we are moving over to television now, and Brandon, you tell me what is dumb in TV.
I will. So when it comes to Ghostbusters and TV, there are not really a lot of options to go through because obviously we're not going to talk about the.
You changed that.
I did.
Oh.
I was
Okay.
originally going to talk about the Ghostbusters and not the cartoon series that came out in '86, but the original show that it was based on, which came out in the '70s. It ended in '75, which was some goofy ghost hunters in a jalopy with a gorilla. And then there was a cartoon of that in '86, and I was going to talk about that, but I decided not to because I don't care about that. What I do care about is the real Ghostbusters, which was a show that was very important to me in my youth for a variety of reasons. One, like I said, I was very into Ghostbusters as a franchise, and so when that show started in 1986, I was ready. It was 2 years after the movie came out. It started off, the very first episode happens essentially after the battle with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and
Hey. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is an imaginary character. That's Gozer to the Destroyer.
Yes, I'm sorry. But it is relevant, though, because in the first episode, they've still got the marshmallow version of imaginary ectoplasm on him, however you want to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
And it winds up creating alternate versions of them in a weird, kind of creepy way. And so it was a great tie-in. And in the beginning, the animation quality was very solid, and the voice cast was outstanding in the beginning because you had Maurice LaMarche, who's very talented, who was Egon, Frank Welker, who played both Ray and Slimer. Originally, there was Dave Coulier came in later on to replace Lorenzo Music as Peter Venkman, which I believe was at Bill Murray's insistence, if I've read that correctly in the past. And in the beginning, you had Arsenio Hall as Winston. So there was a lot of cool stuff going on in the voice cast there. It had the theme song. The whole opening is great. It was a lot of fun. There were a total of 140 episodes over 7 seasons. It went on for a very long time. It expanded the Ghostbusters world beyond what they did in the movies because it wasn't just these specters or imaginary marshmallow people, where it was actually boogeymen and Sam Hain was a character and all of these things that sort of blew out the world a little bit further, and things that we've seen also in the comics, things that, from what I can tell, it looks like the new movie is taking some of that as well from some of the ghosts and things that we can see in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That it has sort of that expanded feel to it. And what's dumb about it is Slimer. What happened was that Slimer got real popular. And while it brought us wonderful things, such as a delicious beverage we'll be discussing later, I believe, it wound up kind of ruining the series. Well, a couple things happened. One, the animation quality went down, and it's very obvious from a certain point that it was not quite as cared about. But then they split it so that it was Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. And so they would have a chunk that was Ghostbusters and a chunk that was just Slimer. And this weird thing where he was fighting some ghost dude, and it was the spin-off was awful, and it took all of the focus away from the actual cartoon and killed the whole thing. I mean, 7 seasons is not bad. I mean, that's great, especially for an animated series that's not The Simpsons or Family Guy.
That's beyond 6 seasons in a movie.
Exactly. It's 2 movies and 7 seasons.
Yeah.
But I like what the show did for the mythos in general. But Slimer,
who is allegedly John Belushi.
Right. I was going to say that in the last segment, that John Belushi is technically in the movie because they...
It's like they referred to him as John Belushi on the set, which that's some great dark comedy for me. Like, that's a comedian coping with the fact that one of their great friends just died on them in the past year. It's just randomly referring to a special effect as that person.
Especially that special effect.
Yeah. Grotesque, eating all the time, and just screaming. John Belushi. Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you're saying the decline of the real Ghostbusters is dumb.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. I am going to crush you on this one. This hands down, because I picked the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Oh.
Eric, were you forced to watch this in getting ready to write comics?
Oh no, I've only seen a couple episodes of it because it wasn't available anywhere.
Well,
Yeah.
funny you should mention that. They're now all available on Hulu, so you
Yes.
guys can actually suffer through this. As I've been going through a couple of the episodes. It basically, the Extreme Ghostbusters came out in '97, and it was basically like, hey, have you ever wanted to see the Poochie version of Ghostbusters? Extreme. It starts off with a remix of the theme song, which we'll talk about the Ray Parker Jr. theme song. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's one of those great, perfect pieces of music. But it's like the '90s extreme blues version of the theme song. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. Is what I'm saying.
I'll include a clip of it here so that people can hear what you're talking about.
Why? Why would you do that to them? Why? Why did you?
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry I did that to you.
That was terrible. Oh, but so and then we're like Brandon and I were discussing it beforehand because I was watching like one of the episodes about an hour before we recorded. Like I cannot take my eyes off of how terrible this is. I was watching the St. Patrick's Day special that they did, which would have aired in November, but it was it's just pure stereotypes about Irish people, just. Like it smelled like Bailey's is what I'm saying. It was so over the top, top of the morning to you, and like it just like I'm watching this. It's just like at least a tenth of the characters have got that little '90s like chin only beard, which I shouldn't make fun of because in the late '90s, early aughts, I did have one of those beards. I can't remember when I had it. Like 2002, I had one of those beards. So not exactly without fault on that, but at the same time, like Brendan and I were talking about it, like we were trying to figure out like there were 40 episodes. Okay, yeah, we were talking about real Ghostbusters, 140 episodes, 7 years, 7 seasons.
And 65 of those were the second season.
Yeah, Extreme Ghostbusters, 40 episodes, 3 months.
That's amazing. And actually, I was looking at the breakdown, and for 2 of those months, it's an episode every day.
Yeah, that's how they just launched it. Like this, there was definitely I'm pretty sure somebody ordered these episodes like 2 years ago on a drunken meth bender, and then they were like, "Oh, geez, we need to finish this. We need to close this line item out before the end of 1997." And they just they crammed them out, just like shove them down the pipe, get them going. Gone.
Get them out.
Okay, here's hands down the most frustrating thing about this entire show. Like I'm watching it, I'm watching the opener again. It's like, who are you gonna call? Just you hear the siren for Ecto 1. In your mind, everybody listening to this just heard the siren for Ecto 1. You don't even have to play it, Brandon. It's that 1970s New York ambulance siren, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's just a generic police siren.
What?
How do you mess that up? How? It's like Ghostbusters has distinct sounds, and they are so attached to nostalgia, and they're doing a nostalgia cartoon, and that's what Ghostbusters has so much going for it. Is it's got some nostalgia visuals and some nostalgia audios, and the audios are the sound of a proton pack firing up, the sound of a proton pack firing its beam, and the siren of Ecto 1. You can't mess up those sounds. They're Godzilla's roar for Ghostbusters. And Extreme Ghostbusters can't get that right. Like, what is wrong with them?
Well, and that's what the trailer for the new movie got right, because it had all 3 of those things you just mentioned.
No.
Yes.
We have not gotten a confirmation that the new Ecto 1 has the old siren.
Oh, I know, but it's in the trailer.
The remix trailer put that in.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm very nervous about that. I'm withholding judgment. I'm hoping that they've realized at some point they've got to put that siren in. like fix it in post.
Except, we have to respect that it's a different universe, because Extreme Ghostbusters took place in the same universe, not just as the real Ghostbusters, but as a result, the movies. This is a whole different universe, and if they want to create their own iconic sounds, as long as they're not awful, then that's their prerogative.
That is true. I'll give them that, but I want my siren.
And I
will agree with you, but not.
Two things that Extreme Ghostbusters did for us. One, it was the return of Maurice LaMarche as Egon.
Yes, it
since
was.
He was hanging out at the firehouse. And also it gave us Kylie, who became one of my favorite characters in the comics.
Okay. Like, the characters, they seem like they have, like, the raw material that you could do something with them. Yeah. I'll give it that. And, yeah, and, like, it's very close to what the plot of Ghostbusters 3 was being kicked around for a while, like the Ghostbusters franchising.
Right.
So I like the general intent of it, but it's like the stench of Poochie is on this thing way too much. So I'm just saying, in general, of like all the TV products that have had the word Ghostbusters on it, both those associated and both predating, I'm gonna have to say Extreme Ghostbusters is dumb. Judge Erik, what do you feel on this? Do you feel the real Ghostbusters or the Extreme Ghostbusters is dumb?
I got to come down.
Wait, hold on a second.
Oh, yes.
Brandon, did I state your case correctly? Are you just saying the real Ghostbusters, or is it the decline?
No, it's Slimer. Slimer ruining.
Slimer. Okay.
Yeah. I'm coming down on a little bit of a draw. Like I said, I've only seen a couple episodes of Extreme Ghostbusters, but I'm with you on the aesthetic. It wasn't my favorite. I liked Kylie enough to steal her for the comics. I like some of the ideas that they have. I didn't like some of the ideas that they have, and I can see how it didn't quite gel. I'd probably have to withhold a firm and final decision until and unless I see more of the show, but I really didn't like Hero Slimer a lot. Really didn't like. I was just like, what is it? Why is he? No, it was a staple of the 80s, though. Every cartoon had their little, mascotty character, taken back through all of them, and the character you could make into a plushie, whatever, and
right.
And Slimer was Ghostbusters, and I just I didn't take to him. I kind of accepted that he was going to be there and just hoped they'd go back to the Ghostbusters as soon as possible. So yeah, it's like I said, I didn't much care for a chunk of the aesthetic of the Extreme Ghostbusters I saw, and I really didn't like real Ghostbusters Slimer, which such a huge portion of the fan base really loved Hero Slimer. But yeah, I'm gonna go with a draw.
Okay, we have a draw. Okay, that brings us to music. With my prediction that I was going to crush, absolutely wrong. That's right. I'm taking a tie as a loss. That's what I'm saying. Okay, music. And I gotta go with it. I'm gonna go first on this one because I'm grabbing the iconic song. I'm grabbing "Ghostbusters" by Ray Parker Jr. And you've heard me earlier say that this is like one of the most iconic songs out there. It has such a kick to it, like that open. It's there. It's a perfect power uppity song. I'm furious that the first trailer that came out for Sony didn't have that song in it, because I feel that fixes a lot of the feel of the had they come, there was way too melancholy. And there was that fan-made trailer that were like, "Hey, throw the Ray Parker on it," and it fixes so much of the trailer for me. It's like, "Hey, yeah, it's a upbeat, fun comedy." And then that got me wondering, like, wait, does Sony actually have the rights to the Ray Parker Jr. song? Like, can they use it? So then I started digging through, because okay, we all people have heard about the plagiarism lawsuit. Huey Lewis in the News sued them. Like the moment they came out with the song, said, "Hey, that's too close," and then there's a lot of like rumors and stuff going around. So I actually had to like do my homework, research what exactly did happen. This is things that I love the internet for, because something this stupid is actually something that I can just go and figure out.
Right.
What I never knew is they tried to hire Huey Lewis and the News to do the theme song.
Mm-hmm.
You knew this.
Oh,
so,
I've read up on this.
You're read in. So they wanted Huey Lewis, and he was busy with Back to the Future. So we'll add Back to the Future to the pile of Beverly Hills Cop dumbness. Things that I still really like, but I'm going to say dumb because it hurt my didn't really hurt my movie, because then they brought in Ray Parker Jr. and what probably, by the way, is it Ray Parker? Yeah, it is Ray Parker Jr. Every now and then I add a junior to somebody's name, and I didn't want to do that accidentally here. So he probably did his best impersonation of Huey Lewis and the News and put this song together, and his impersonation was a little too close. And the fact that, like, that first contact we had with Huey, it looked suspicious. It went to court, and then there was a settlement, and that settlement was sealed, and theoretically, no one was supposed to talk about it. Huey Lewis screwed that up about a decade and a half later. He did a VH1 Behind the Music thing, and he admitted, Sony admitted they screwed up. Or no, it wasn't Sony at that point, was it?
Mm-hmm.
It was Sony?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been Sony Music, yeah. And they admitted they screwed up. They paid Huey Lewis and the News. Everyone got paid, is what I'm saying. It's a messy bit of sausage making to make that song, but we shouldn't let it bother us anymore. That's what I feel. So the fact that for a while there, I was feeling kind of, because I like Huey Lewis and the News, damn it. Not in like a serial killer kind of way. Although when he did, what movie am I thinking of? The American Psycho. Have you seen the video where Huey Lewis and the News recreates the Huey Lewis and the News American Psycho scene?
Yeah, is that the one with Weird Al?
Yes. Yeah. So again, more love for Huey there. But no, it's like, so everyone got paid. Everyone, like, that song shouldn't have to feel tainted anymore. So I'm gonna say that song is dumb because it, like the siren from Ecto 1, hasn't shown up in conjunction with the next Ghostbusters movie. And that's really my only two complaints about this movie so far.
Well, now, it does show up in the actual trailer. It's just played very slowly on a piano.
Yes, it's done with the Jurassic World style trailer.
Exactly.
Where they're playing it on a slow piano.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't want that. No, don't slow it down. That's the wrong meter. So that's where my selfish dumbness is that I like the song. It's dumb that I felt bad about it, and it's dumb that I haven't seen it used recently. What do you say, Brandon? What do you say is dumb?
Well, as much as the Ray Parker Jr. Ghostbusters theme was everywhere in the mid-'80s, from the radio to roller skating rinks to people just humming it on the street, the main theme to Ghostbusters 2, the Ghostbusters 2 rap by Run DMC, didn't have quite as lasting a legacy. Now, I know those of us who listened to the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack way more than we should have, and I think maybe we can all raise our hands.
Yeah.
All of us assembled here. It sticks out, and it is not a great song. Sorry, guys. But I'll tell you, though, nothing says the end of the 80s like a Run DMC rap about the Ghostbusters. And
I would argue with that, because wasn't there also a Bobby Brown song as well? Well, no, there was a cameo by Bobby Brown. No, the Bobby Brown song was from the first one,
right?
And he does a cameo in the second. Okay,
right.
Never mind.
So yeah, and that was a great song in the first one too. But so the rap, in looking it up because I wanted to look up the lyrics because they're gold. I found the video that they released as a promo. And it features, it starts off with a limo pulling outside of a music venue that's just mobbed with fans. And out of the limo come Reverend Run, Daryl, Jam Master J, Sigourney Weaver, and Annie Potts. Those last two with just big glammed out late 80s hair. And all the Run DMC guys are wearing the Ghostbusters jumpsuits. And so they make their way into the venue and they're performing their song on stage with like theatrics, and I don't mean like pyrotechnics. I mean there's a line in the song about hey, get up and go to the phone but don't trip or whatever, and one of them trips into the other one, and it's very silly. And then it's intercut with shots from the movie, which it's a promotional video, so of course. But just to talk about the lyrics a little bit real quick. It was meant to be sort of a remix of the original because it talks about, we ain't afraid of no ghosts is the refrain. But some of the lyrics aside from that are pretty funny and mostly nonsensical. For instance, I'm going to read this to you because I'm a rap man. I remember the time I visited the grave, my life on the line, only my life to save. All by myself, with no one around, did not understand a hand coming out the ground. I knew it wasn't mine, it was somebody else. But I didn't care, G, I just screamed for help. Why would it have been his hand? Like...
What's sad is it's like you're just like, I couldn't, if you asked me cold to tell you those lyrics, nothing. But it's like you opened up like a bag of string cheese in my head, and they're just like, oh, there's all those lyrics coming right out.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have been his hand. He could have been possessed. You don't know.
But it was coming out of the grave that he was standing near. So unless he lost his arm and it was buried somewhere other than him, like Stonewall Jackson style, then that doesn't make a lot of sense.
It just needs to rhyme.
Exactly. And so much of it just needs to rhyme. And
I'm looking at the track list for this soundtrack now since you brought it up. There are 2 Bobby Brown tracks on this soundtrack.
Thank you.
Oh, and Ghostbusters 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boingo Boingo, Elton John, Jesus, Glenn Frey.
Oh my God.
That soundtrack was a masterpiece.
I listen to this a lot. It's taking me back. I'm just looking at the
my gosh,
man. Oh my
It is.
Anyway.
It is
like
pretty.
You're
amazing.
realizing that you were cooler as a kid than you knew. All right, that's what we're seeing.
I was
Sure.
cooler as a kid than I am right now.
Sure.
Man.
So I don't know who produced it or why Bobby Brown loved Ghostbusters so much, or why Ghostbusters loved Bobby Brown so much.
He wanted one of them proton packs for
That's
his
true.
kids.
That makes sense. It makes sense.
Such a weird scene.
That was my favorite line of the second one. A proton pack is not a toy. I guess he's right.
It's a nuclear reactor, people.
It's just Aykroyd's just depressing realization. I guess he's right. That made me laugh so hard.
But go run out and buy the toy versions of them, kids. We need the money.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had one.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It had like the yellow foam beam that you could stick into the front of it. I loved that thing.
Oh, gosh. When I saw you put Ghostbusters 2 by Run DMC, like, how dare you? I was like livid angry when I saw that pop up in the show notes.
Yikes.
Like, I was debating like how to put this in as a dumb thing just so I could talk about how much I love that song.
Oh man, sometimes I think it's good that we don't live closer than we do.
Oh man. Okay, so Judge Eric, this is a tough one. Is it dumb that Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. hasn't been confirmed to be part of the current Ghostbusters movie? I'll just simplify it down to that. Or is it dumb that Brandon is a stupid head and thinks that Ghostbusters 2 Rap was a terrible song?
Well, he's right. It was pretty bad. And it did lead to, MC Hammer and Tag Team doing songs for the Addams Family.
True.
So,
They do what they want to do.
it's true,
Guys, I'm just going to say this real quick, though. I'm really starting to doubt the legitimacy of MC Hammer.
I know. Yeah,
He has yet to quit, though.
He has.
Are we sure? Are we sure?
He just released a video last year.
And honestly, he hasn't hurt anyone. So, we said please, the magic word. Okay. Oh boy, I had to reach down for that one. But no, I do think it's a mistake that they're not using more of the nostalgia for the original song and the new stuff. But maybe they're trying to separate it just a little bit more. In which case maybe it's a silly notion, but it's an intentional silly notion, which I can understand. So, gosh, this is I'm going to wind up going with another draw because I don't see the sense in either of these things. Everybody wins. Just bring an Oprah meme in here and say everybody gets a win. Everybody gets a tie.
All right, let me add another note there. I was not expecting the draw. I had a different thing loaded up.
Had you already put in your notes that I lost?
No, I had is dumb saved on my clipboard, and I was just going to paste it onto whichever one got deemed dumb. But I have an is also dumb to put on as well. So
I'm ruining your times.
Oh gosh, we're just making Brandon work harder later.
That's right.
That's okay with me. It's literally no effort for me at the end of the day. All on him.
Paste. Cool.
Much like what we're doing right now is completely useless.
Moving on.
Moving on. Let me just snap my fingers to make it just a little bit more annoying later.
Yeah, pop the levels some more, please.
All right, let's. Hands by the back. All right, moving on. We are talking video gaming. We are going to talk Ghostbusters video games. There have been a lot. This is one I'm picking the 2009 Ghostbusters video game. I had some debate on that. I definitely closed my show notes. Why did I do that? I was trying to minimize Windows so that the laptop wouldn't die on me. But okay, so I was going through a bunch of the other video games. I can do this by memory. Sure. There was because right now there's a Ghostbuster video game coming out next month with Lego Dimensions. The Ghostbuster module is coming out.
Yeah.
So I could again talk about how I'm terrified of having to take out a second mortgage to play that video game. Because I will. That's going to happen. I will be poor, and I will have lots of little tiny Legos. I even debated bringing up Burnout Paradise City. I don't know if you guys remember this racing game, but at one point they had a DLC pack that you could actually get their knockoff Ecto 1 to drive around the city. And I am that big of a nerd. I nearly spent $5 just to get 3 imaginary cars. In my defense, one of them was also the DeLorean, which would hover. I have no idea what the third one was. I completely forgot, and I didn't look it up because didn't get it. Didn't sink that much money into just 3 cars. That
unless it's
ridiculous.
Unless it's Dragula, then I don't think it would have been worth it.
Gosh, what the heck was it? Nah. And it wasn't Bigfoot or anything like that. So no. So there was 2009. They came out with Ghostbusters, the video game. This one is very special because it came out. It was PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, the Wii, and it had
sort of. The Wii version was different.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to play the Wii version because I liked the way the style looked, but I never committed to actually digging it up and getting it. Mm-hmm. But it had some really good in-game likenesses. It had a great voice cast. It had the big 4, right? Yeah, I'm making sure that I'm not wrong on that. But yeah, no, it had all the main actors back doing voice. It didn't have Sigourney Weaver. No. That was the one that was different, and instead they got Alyssa Milano to play a character. So trade 180s for the other. Okay. Right. It's but here's the thing that I found dumb about it is that they keep talking about how the line that they say about this game is that this is essentially the third Ghostbusters movie.
Mm-hmm.
If that were true, this would be one of the worst movies ever. Just absolutely terrible movie. Fun video game. I very much enjoyed it, but it basically was way too heavily steeped in nostalgia. It was a very thin plot designed to rehash all the classic cinematic scenes that you went through in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. That was the entire plot was just this giant MacGuffin to get you to go through all those classic set pieces.
Right. Slimer at the Sedgwick.
Yep, got all sorts of fun stuff like that. Go through some graveyards and some other things they added. Go through Central Park, go into the museum. You got to find little classic props from the movies, and it was very fun. But man, would it have been a terrible movie? Like, I read the Wikipedia summary again just to remind myself what I did in that game 7 years ago. I did that this morning. I have taken a half-hour nap between now and then. I do not remember the actual villain plot again. Like, nope, brain doesn't want that information. It is literally one screen over from me right now. I could glance over there and look. I don't have the effort to tell you guys. And that, like, it's a fun game. It hit all the nostalgia points I want. It gave me the song. It gave me the Ecto 1 siren. It gave me the proton. The proton packs were amazing in this thing. Like, they actually figured out how to add in, like, they took as much away from the HUD as possible and put it on the proton pack.
Right.
So you're playing it in third person, and that's telling you everything you need to know. But no, as far as the movie goes, no, it was not the third movie. It was in my opinion, the second best video game. So the hype that surrounded it was a little bit weird.
Well, part of that hype was because Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd wrote the game.
They did write the game, and like they did get on top of that Bill Murray and Eddie and
Not Eddie.
Not Eddie, Ernie. There's a part of me that wants to be in that other universe still. Yeah, but it was. By the way, Aykroyd and Ramis didn't actually write the game; they doctored the script.
Oh, okay. I thought they wrote it.
Just so we're clear on that. But that was, although they are credited as writers.
Yeah, I thought they wrote it. I mean, I don't think they outlined it because the outline is remember this, remember this, remember this. You know.
Well, you could argue they did outline it when somebody just took the two scripts of the previous movies and said, "There's the outline. Here we go." But yeah, so I think that is them. I think up until that point, it was the second best video game, and for some reason, you are putting the best Ghostbusters video game on the is dumb list, and I want to know why. You tell me.
I'll explain why. But before that, I want to step back just to the 2009 Ghostbusters game real quick. Because I have a very vivid memory of playing this game. Because you play, it's third person, you're a rookie. And you're starting out as a Ghostbuster.
You're rookie, you're newbie.
Right. And so there's a point at which, after you've gone through the training simulator thing, where they have Slimer in the basement or something, I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
But you go through it, and at one point, Ray, as voiced by Dan Aykroyd, turns to you and looks you straight in the face and says, "Are you ready to be a Ghostbuster?" And I sat forward on my couch and I went, "Hell yeah!" And then kept playing. It was such a rush.
It really does. They did the really good amount of video game immersion to it, where they never, like, the voice acting they always refer to as rookie, and they're constantly degrading you that way. But it makes it so that they're never calling you somebody else's name. They're making it so you're not allowed to talk from like a psychological standpoint, which helps you not feel weird the fact that your character never talks.
Right. Now, Erik, the rookie is a character in the comics, right?
Yeah. Well, it was a situation where people were really demanding that he show up. Where are you going to bring in the rookie? Because clearly the game happened and it's canon, so we want the rookie. Where is he? What happened? How is he doing? You know, so
he has his own franchise, right?
That's why we went with that. And he's in Chicago.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was an interesting tie-in. So I'm going to talk about the Ghostbusters game that came out in either 1984 or 1985, depending on which website you believe. That was originally released for Commodore 64, also I think the Atari 800 and the Apple II, maybe. I played this game so much, and it was so frustrating because it's very simple at its core, but it's really hard to master. Unless you're the guy that did the speed run that I watched earlier today, who beat the whole thing in like 11 minutes.
Wow.
And it was very frustrating.
So we should point out, though, that takes at least twice as long as it takes to beat Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you see that record-beating
Yeah, maybe.
I
video
was
that came out
wincing
recently?
from that thing. I was kind of like shying away from the screen when he was making those jumps, and that's not normal behavior.
Yeah.
It's sprites, and I'm not even playing. Why am I wincing?
Yeah, but every time he landed on the lip of one of those pipes when the piranha plant was still there, I was just,
Yeah,
it was insane.
exactly.
But anyway, that's not Ghostbusters.
No, but yeah, I'm just pointing out like that should give you an idea of the complexity
Right.
of Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, we'll call it Ghostbusters 84 or 60 C64.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, it was twice as hard as Super
Right.
Mario. People.
So let me give a quick description of how this game actually worked. So you started off with a certain amount of credit that you were given by the bank. And you used that credit first to buy a car, and it ranged from like a crappy little VW Bug to an old hearse to all this other stuff, which it was not. Ecto 1 is not a hearse, but in the game it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that, and I'll get to that in a minute. So you pick your vehicle, then you pick what equipment goes on it, and that's everything from a ghost vacuum to traps to all this other stuff. So once you have your vehicle and you have all your equipment, then you get an overview map of New York, which is apparently like 20 blocks, 20 square blocks.
Well, New York was smaller back then.
Right, of course. So from this map screen, you then have to go around to different buildings that have been haunted, and you can tell because they blink red or purple, depending on what the challenge is. And so then you go, and there's always a Slimer, and Slimer is floating around, and you have to use two of your little Ghostbusters to trap him with your proton beams that are constantly firing at a diagonal without crossing the streams. And you have to kind of move him towards a trap, and then you trap him. After a while, your traps get filled up. You have to go back to headquarters, refresh, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two different screens. You've got the map screen and then the building screen. And then in between, as you're driving to these locations, ghosts are just flying around in the street. And so you use your ghost vacuum that you have on the hood of your car to suck these guys up too while you're going. And depending on what kind of car you have, the speed changes, and obviously, once you get the best car, then you're able to grab all of them. So all the while, the PK energy in the city is building. When you go back to the map screen, there are ghosts that are converging towards the center block, which is Zul's temple, and also a key and a little lock to represent the keymaster and the gatekeeper are also moving towards. Now, every once in a while, you'll get a marshmallow alert. And what this means is that some of the ghosts are forming together to turn into a Marshmallow Man. And if you don't address it quickly enough, then they destroy a building. And then they go away. You know, just like in the movie. Mm-hmm. So all the while, you're listening to that Ray Parker Jr. Ghostbusters theme, a MIDI version of it, on repeat constantly in the background. And then every once in a while, at the very beginning of the game, and then anytime you catch a ghost, the game goes, Ghostbusters! In this weird, like, digitized effect voice.
Kind of like Wallace Shawn there.
Inconceivable.
There you go.
So, eventually, you make it to the final block, and I don't know what the criteria is, but I do know that if the Marshmallow Man destroys a building, you have to pay for it out of the money that you have, that you need to be using to upgrade your equipment and cars and things. So at the end, eventually everything converges at Zul's temple, and so you get to the bottom of Dana's building, and the Marshmallow Man is like prancing around in front of the door, and you have to sneak your little Ghostbusters in around him. And every time you do, he frowns and looks so sad, and then he goes back to grinning and just jigging in front of the door. And so you have to get at least 2 Ghostbusters in the door. And then it scrolls all the way up to the top, and you see the pyramid, and you see your 2 Ghostbusters crossing the streams, and then the game's over.
That's all you got to do after that point.
Exactly. You don't even have to do anything. Like, it's just over at that point, which is incredible. And then they did a really bad NES port a couple years later that had an infamously bad end screen, even though they added more to the end battle.
Mm-hmm.
And hang on, I'm gonna pause the action for a second here because I need to pull up what this end screen was.
I'm gonna look it up real quick myself too. Of course, I'm doing it on the computer that is not hooked up to the Google chat. The fact that I'm at an NES end screen and it's asking me Ghostbusters, that could just be Google like saying, "You're really into Ghostbusters today, aren't you?"
I know it's like... Oh, here it is. Okay. So when you get to the end screen in the NES version, it's just a black screen with white text, and it says, "Congratulations. You have completed a great game and proved, Prooved, the justice of our culture. Now go and rest our heroes." That's how the game ends. And in fact, in the firehouse in the 2009 Ghostbusters game, that's on one of the screens. It's on one of the monitors in the background.
I want to point out one of the worst things about this is the space they put in between the word and the exclamation point. Like
Right.
that adds just a little bit more rage.
Right. So I think the NES port is really the bad thing because, Ernie Hudson said that his kids hated the game. So that's not really what you want to hear from the start of the movie that your game is based on. But at the time, it was the best video game ever based on a movie. Because what did they have to compare it to? E.T.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is still an Indian burial ground of
Right.
terrible. Yes.
And there was an Indiana Jones game that came out it was for the Atari. I had that.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a good complexity. And one of the reviews that I read said that it didn't have the action you would expect from a licensed property, but it was a really good business management game. Which is true, because you have to manage your assets and you have to balance out your income and outgo and all that. Which also, by the way, ghosts, in case you're wondering, the Slimers that you come across are worth an arbitrary amount of money, depending on nothing at all. So you might get $700 for catching one, you might get $300 for catching one.
I think that all comes down to how much you can extort out of the person. Because that was the business model of Ghostbusters.
That is true.
Raw extortion right after saving their lives.
Right. So I'm going to say that what's dumb is the NES port.
Okay.
Congratulations.
So, Judge Erik, is it dumb to think that the 2009 Ghostbusters is the third Ghostbusters movie, or is it dumb that the NES port happened?
Okay, well,
and is a really great game.
Yeah, as far as the movie goes, they say that, but I mean a movie, you'd need 2 hours of story. A game, you need 8 to 10 hours worth of playable story. So they throw a lot of extraneous stuff in there that isn't necessary. So if you cut out all of that stuff that is just diversion from the story, going back to the Sedgwick fighting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man again, I can see it as the third movie. It's much less of a story. You're losing 80% of the game, but that's because you need something to play. So I can see it under those circumstances. I didn't actually own a game system until Sega Genesis went on clearance when I was 21 years old and bought one for $20. So I didn't play the old Ghostbusters game. But it sounds awful, the port to the NES.
I played it at my school library when I was in like first grade. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even have such an option. Oregon Trail maybe on the the floppy disks that were as large as my head.
Yep. No
Ghostbusters. So yeah, I don't feel qualified to comment, but boy, that really does sound awful. The port with I kind of want it on a T-shirt though.
I'm sure it's out there. We'll check Redbubble later.
I would not doubt it for a second. I'm going to go shopping.
All right. Wait, what's the decision?
I think I'm going to go with the port because that sounds just the picture painted. I can see where they're coming from with the argument for the third movie on the 2009 game.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see where you're coming from, but it's.
Oh no, you don't have to apologize.
So no. I can understand the arguments, but it's just like I said, 80% of that game wasn't part of the story. It was just giving you something to do.
Yeah. No, stand by your judgment. I will accept it as rule and law, and I will live by that ruling. But now we're going to move over to etc. Wow. So when I sat down I'm going to go first, Brandon. Is that cool?
Sure.
Yeah. So I wanted to discuss the fact that they're bringing back Ecto Cooler. And I was debating, like, because this is how I do this sometimes, is I find something I want to talk about, and then I try to figure out why it's dumb. And so I
Wait,
started...
is that not what we're supposed to do?
No, sometimes I look at it like, that's dumb. I'm talking about it. Like, that's the more natural way. Like, usually it involves Kanye. So then it'll be like, yep, that's dumb. We're talking about that. No, but so what I did is I was trying to find out, like, the health recipe of Ecto Cooler. Like, because I'm curious, like, there's definitely been a schism in beverages between when we were kids, when we were in our 20s, and now, where, like, the ones that were in our 20s were some of the least healthy things we've ever made in liquid form, and it's neat to see that beverage companies are moving away from that. Personally, I'm moving drastic. I only drink, like, water and tea nowadays. I try not to drink calories. I'm like, yeah, I'm a California hippie now. But no, so... And I'm debating, like, do I try the new Ecto Cooler, try to, like, taste my childhood again there? Because we've all drank Ecto Cooler at some point, right?
Right.
Yeah. Everybody listening just said, yeah, of course. They also had a cavity. But it's like, so I'm looking at this, and I was trying to find the recipe for it, or, like, the ingredients of what it was in the 80s. This, I fell down a rabbit hole of the internet. There is apparently
about the fact that it never went away.
Giant conspiracy of that Ecto Cooler existed before and still existed in the High C lineup, and that there is a concerted effort by the High C Illuminati to scrub all references from the internet of Ecto Cooler's previous. What was the
Orange Lava Burst?
Was it Orange Lava Burst? Is that
Yep.
the one?
Oh yeah.
No. Citrus Cooler.
Oh, that was before.
Citrus Cooler happened first.
Right.
And then you got Ecto Cooler, and then after Ecto Cooler you got Shouting Orange Tangerine.
Oh.
And then you got no wait, this one says Crazy Citrus Cooler. Was there a Lava Burst recently?
Once I read about it, I sought out Orange Lava Burst about, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, maybe less, and it was 100% Ecto Cooler.
Okay, so there are other labels in this chain. So this conspiracy theory, how dare this internet conspiracy theory get a detail wrong? But yeah, so apparently it's been like a citrusy flavor thing that High C has been making for 30 years, and it's still out. But hey, it's coming back, so let's all get excited and buy it because it has Slimer on it. And I love Slimer, so I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm excited that, like, they're putting him in the next movie. Like, again, it's that nostalgia factor. I'm not saying I love the Slimer Real Ghostbusters cartoon. Like, that got a little much. But I did get excited the day that I found out that he was John Belushi. Like, I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, it's so that's a very dumb conspiracy. I spent time researching conspiracies about Ecto Cooler, people, and that's a thing. That people are adamant. People like Brandon J. Carr are adamant that it has never left us.
Right, because I remember the taste of a beverage 20 years after the last time I've had it.
It haunts you, is what you're saying. Okay. All right, Brandon, you tell me what's dumb.
So, with apologies to the recent Ghostbusters board game that came out from Cryptozoic Entertainment, which looks amazing. I have not had a chance to play it, but I have heard wonderful things about it. It was illustrated by the current illustrator of the comic book series, and there was a good deal of writing done for it by Eric, do you know who it was?
Some hack.
Some hack. Something Burnham, I think. Burnham. So anyway, with apologies to that and its successor, which I think we'll hear about later, there was a board game for the real Ghostbusters that came out in 1986. that I loved. And apparently it was part of a series of games that were very similar, but this was a 3D board game. And this was at a time when board games were pretty weird. There were a lot of weird things that came out on boards. Mousetrap couldn't have been much older than that. But the way this worked is it had sort of a tower in the middle of the board, not like Dark Tower. It didn't bleep and bloop. Do you guys remember Dark Tower? Is that just me?
No, I don't remember. I remember the Stephen King series.
No, I'm going to have to bring up Dark Tower in another episode because it was amazing. Anywho, so it had a tower in the middle, and it was divided into 4 sections that stood up vertically on the board. So it was 4 separate rooms. And you had the Ghostbusters firehouse. You had like an outdoors area, some sort of creepy mansion maybe, and a museum section. And so your characters would go through by spinning it was a spinner, so you would either get to move forward, and you'd roll a die, and then you would have to spin. And in each of the quarters, there was a trap that would get your guy. And so in the firehouse, for instance, there was a suit of armor, because of course, and it had an axe, and it stood there, and it had the axe. And in the haunted house area, there was a piece of flooring that was imbalanced. In the museum, there was a staircase. And the outdoor area, there was a fire escape that would fall on you. And the way it would determine whether or not this did anything to you is you would drop a plastic skull in the middle of the tower, and it would maybe roll into the section that you were in, and if it did, it would knock your guy out, and you'd have to go all the way to the beginning. Crazy complicated, I know. And the only reason I remember any of this is because I found a video of someone who still had their old copy of it, and they were going through and explaining the rules. Sort of complicated, but it was immersive because it was these rooms. You know, it was the same way that, like, the Ghostbusters Firehouse toy was semi-enclosed. So when you were playing with it, it was like your characters were in rooms, you know? And it was the same thing with this board game. And it was a lot of fun watching to see whether or not your character would get knocked over. And then eventually, just like any other game like that, it just became, I'm just going to play with the board and see what happens, you know? Like, no one played a lot of Mousetrap. You know, after a while, you would just put it together and play with it, you know? It was the same kind of thing. And unfortunately, this type of game sort of went away after a while. And I would love, not just for Ghostbusters necessarily, but just for anything in general, board games to have more of a 3D element to them. Because I remember having so much fun with that game. And then it's, the more enduring board games have always been, like, super flat. And, they've flattened even more. Like, I don't even know if the Game of Life still has the mountain range spinner, or if it has all just flattened out. But I think that what's dumb is that we never saw a continuation over time of these types of 3D board games.
The board gamer in me wants to, like, start sending you a list of games that you might want to look into getting.
Oh, really? Am I wrong? I can change.
You're very wrong on this. Okay. I don't know if it's, like, gotten quite so vertically structural, but I'm thinking of some games like Descent. Plays like a very simplified D&D campaign, so you have a lot of miniatures on the board, and like tiles added in. There was a game called Mage Knight that did a Mage Knight Dungeons that had, like, you built the dungeon together and it had little treasure chests. I used to also play
Hero Quest.
Yeah, a Hero Quest is another example of that. Warhammer came out with a game called Mordheim that was like you built a whole city and you, like, adventured through it. So yeah, and I've played a lot of these 3D games. So
what's dumb here is me.
I wasn't gonna say it, but you're dumb. We're not. I don't know if any of those are necessarily new. I know a lot of, like, miniature games tend to go very well in Kickstarter. Like, if they have like a miniature element to them, they tend to have a pretty solid Kickstarter, and that's been pushing the gaming industry to make more miniature things. But then, as the price of oil got more expensive, it got more expensive to make games with miniatures in them. So there was a balancing back over to cardboard. And it becomes this
game, I mean, the characters were cardboard, but it was the set. I mean, it was like a foot tall. This game. I mean, I don't know. I like things that are 3D.
All right, so what we want to know is what is dumb? Is it dumb that there are ecto-cooler conspiracy theorists, or is it dumb that there aren't enough 3D mass-produced board games?
I got to go on with the conspiracy theory on this one. You win because I found out when I started working with Cryptozoic on the games just how many different kinds of crazy board games they are, and I was kind of floored because I had no idea. Just the depth and variety.
Oh yeah, it's
so. But I mean, it's just the only thing that I'm hoping is the ecto cooler resurgence doesn't get people lobbying Coke to bring back OK Soda. That was pretty bad. So
OK Soda, wow.
What is OK Soda?
It was not okay. It was an orange flavored kind of thing. They marketing heavily towards Generation X in about 1993, and it lasted about 6 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
Although, if this causes Crystal Pepsi to come back, I'm all over that.
No.
I don't think they'll. Then again, I could be wrong. Who knows?
Pepsi is actually coming out with a new cola called 1893, which is supposedly close to their original recipe.
I've been sipping on one of the two while we spoke here. I tried both flavors, and the ginger one tastes like ginger beer, and the other one tastes like Diet Pepsi. A full-calorie soda with all the flavor
of Diet Pepsi.
No, it wasn't. I don't mean to make it sound bad. It was different. It was not as sweet.
Coca-Cola was the one with cocaine. Did Pepsi also have something like that in it?
No, they had Pepcane.
Pepcane.
There you go. Who knows?
I think Brandon just lied to us.
That was a monstrous joke. I apologize.
Okay.
He might have.
You are a damn liar. But let's recap the show, ladies and gentlemen. One of us is telling the truth when we say that Ghostbusters 2 is dumb. Extreme Ghostbusters is dumb. The Real Ghostbusters is also dumb. Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. is dumb. Ghostbusters 2 Rap is dumb. Ghostbusters for the Commodore 64 is dumb. And Ecto Cooler Conspiracy Theories is dumb. It was so close to just being a clean sweep of me just saying over and over again, Ghostbusters is dumb, Ghostbusters is dumb. Like, that's not at all what we mean, but that's how we play this game, because we are horrible people that way. Let's look up at the follow-up dumbness. Brandon, did you find anything to follow up on this week?
Nope, literally nothing happened.
Literally nothing happened. I was debating whether or not Beyonce's Lemonade counted.
The reaction sure did.
Yeah, it did. You know what? Let's save that for next week, shall we?
Yeah, that's just a whole new dumbness that needs to be poked at, definitely. I do want to point out that No Man's Sky, we are getting like a flood of new videos coming out. They've been showing like some of the planets and creatures. They did a whole segment on like the lore development. I did not realize that Dave Gibbons is helping them flesh out the lore.
Really?
Like there's going to be a comic drawn by Dave Gibbons shipping with the game.
Say what?
In case you needed to be more psyched and hyped for this game, that's a thing that they decided to add. And I'm loving this because the more and more I watch these interviews, and they have Sean Murray, the creator of No Man's Sky, the more and more he is going full hobo on us. Like
Explain.
If you look back 2 years ago, he's a very clean-cut, nice, well-mannered person. Around last year, the eyes start to go crazy, and now he's got like this epic beard, and his hair is just getting more and more wild. Like I expect to see a bird nest in 2 months, and like the stick and the satchel is going to be just like. So let me tell you about this game. You get to go to all the planets. Don't set down roots nowhere. You just go and you fly. Like that's what I expect to see right now.
Well, listen, when you go on Colbert's show and get him excited about a game and then tell him when it's going to come out, you do everything you can to make sure it comes out then.
He didn't actually tell Colbert when it was coming out.
Not on air.
Not on air. Oh, do you think he told him off air?
Maybe. Maybe it's Colbert's birthday. Don't know.
Maybe it is in a month and a half, and
Sure.
yeah, it's gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
Don't you dare! I don't care if they just like give us the 5 planets that they've shown so far. Just give me those planets now. No one gets hurt. Like that would be great if like it's just those 5 planets over and over again until
Just
they
like in
finally
different
patch it.
colors.
Just not even that. It's just like give him like 2 weeks before enough live plays happen, then they'll find out that happened.
Right.
We'll see. I don't even care. I would still play it. Still be happy with it. All right, shameless plugs. Shameless plugs. Time of the show. I will go first to help the other two dig up whatever notes they need to shamelessly plug themselves. Mega Art Wars will be part of ToonCon on May 7th, and then on May 28th, we're back at the Improv Space in Brentwood, California. That's Mega Art Wars. I don't know what time we start at ToonCon. I should know that. We were told by the convention. For the May 28th show, that will be a 6 o'clock show. There will be a title bout. Very excited.
Ooh.
Yes. Brandon, is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
Nope.
Okay. Erik, what would you like to shamelessly plug, sir?
Oh, I got plenty to plug here. Just 3-4 things. That's not too much. I don't think that's plenty.
You can take some of the previously unused plugs that Brandon had from earlier. That's fine for me.
Have my plug time, sir.
There it is. Ghostbusters International, the new monthly comic, that's coming out. The 4th issue was in some stores today. There was a little bit of a distribution hiccup, so the rest should be next week. And then, of course, continuing on, 5's done, 6 and 7 are being worked on at the same time, with some interesting things happening that I almost decided to speak up and spoil, but decided against at the last second.
Dang it!
But we've got the artist of the 12th Doctor comic series, Comics Titan, Rachel Stott, is guest arting on issue 6 for us, and she's doing some fun stuff in Puerto Rico, some fun Puerto Rican story with Egon. And then Dan comes back for a story set in Ireland in issue 7. And
hopefully not quite as racist as that Extreme Ghostbusters episode I was watching earlier.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, huh? Did I have anybody saying anything remotely stereotypical in this? I don't think I did. Maybe I should add a faith in Bagora just to be on the safe side. There is a Kickstarter. We covered a little bit the Ghostbusters board game from Cryptozoic last year that Dan Schoening and I helped out with. There's a sequel. It's on Kickstarter right now, going until May 9th, with a crazy thing. We were Brandon and I were talking about this earlier. There's a tier where you can make yourself into a miniature, and I write you a backstory, and Dan designs it, and I'm like, that's a $2,500 tier. I'm from the deep rural country, so I'm like, I wonder how many people are going to go for that. It's up to 8, and I'm like, this is starting to look like it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, I was going to say, $2,500, that's actually, for as far as Kickstarter board games go, that's a really good, that's a reasonable amount, yes.
Yeah, well, it's, and I'll take your word for it. Like I said, I was kind of, it's the kind of thing where I would never charge that much myself, because I don't think anybody would pay me $2,500, or I couldn't convince myself that they would,
Right.
because I'm from the country, and I'm like, well, maybe they'll pay me $5. But, no, I'm super stoked that it's going so well, and people are excited about it. And then, gosh, there's next month there's another comic, the DeLorean, starring. I'm doing a Back to the Future comic next month. That is adapting the video game from a couple of years ago.
Oh, I love that game.
Yes, see, so it's a 5-issue miniseries and 5 chapters of the game, so you can see how it works out. And it's not going to match up with the game perfectly, because Bob Gale has had some new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's going to be changes.
Is that the Telltale Games?
That's
Yep.
one.
We were talking about that last week.
We talked about it last week. It is now languishing in my queue because Humble Bundle is stupid. Or is dumb.
It's
Yes.
dumb.
And the last thing I mentioned, I keep wanting to say next month because I'm thinking it's May. In June,
At this point, it's probably May.
it's close enough to yes. Yes, right. And my brain is not processing time real well. Real good for someone working on Back to the Future, don't you think?
Maybe that's why.
Yeah. Tobin's Spirit Guide. There's an official book coming out from Inside Editions, and I worked on that with Kyle Hotz. So I wrote up a
Nice.
little entry in Tobin's. He provided the illustration. We've got about 100 different ghosts in there from across the games, the cartoons, extreme and real, the comics, and the movies.
I can
I'm
think of a couple people that are going to be ridiculously excited that there's finally going to be an official Tobin Spirit Guide.
I'm excited. It looks
yeah,
so
I'm
great.
talking to you right now.
Yep. That's definitely like one of those books that I think we all at some point like looked for in a used library, a used bookstore, trying to find it, and then now that we're older, realizing that okay, that probably was a fake book, but where is it? Like,
Yeah.
come on, let's get that to us. All right, that is exciting. I'm definitely want to check out all that, but that's the thing that I'm definitely going to like hunt down.
Oh
That's
yeah.
going on a shelf. Yeah. All right. That means. Oh, hey. I'm like sitting around here like, when's the host gonna close the show? That would be me. All right, ladies and gentlemen. For our guest judge Erik Burnham and for my co-host Brandon J. Carr, I've been Darren J. Gendron. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. Please like, comment, subscribe to us, send in reviews. That helps us out immensely. And once again, I done fucked that up hard. I have the script in front of me. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to like and comment and subscribe and review us on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know what you think about it. You can email us at 5dumbthings@gmail.com. For our guest judge, Erik Burnham, and my co-host, Brandon J. Carr, I've been Darren J. Gendron, and we've been really, really dumb.